The following program is the work of the broadcast students at the British Columbia Institute of Technology. BCIT Magazine features news stories from around the Lower Mainland which were produced over the last week. Responsibility for the content of the show rests completely with the students and their instructors.
Today on BCIT Magazine, BC NDP leader Adrian Dix calls on Vancouver Coastal Health to reverse its decision to centralize community health clinics.
A new group is emerging to keep Portland Hotel Society services running after a spending scandal.
And government disagrees with environmentalists on a recent BC Parks amendment. Hello and welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Neetu, Garcha.
And I'm Angelina, Theilmann. Portland Hotel Society workers are taking action. This following the organization's recent spending scandal that saw the board of directors resign and the termination of the senior management team. My co-anchor Neetu Garcha reports on the emerging coalition called Save PHS.
Fraser Stewart is a resident of the downtown east side. He says he's got peace of mind knowing a new group is emerging called Save PHS.
They really want to save the services at the Portland.
Spokesperson Nicholas Hodges says the idea for the group comes after heavy uncertainty that the work the Portland Hotel Society does will continue.
Right now what we have is a promise to keep the existing services on life support and nothing more. That's not what we want.
He says especially after the recent exposure of the expenses scandal involving executives of the Portland Hotel Society, transparency is key.
We conceived of Save PHS as a way for people to constructively contribute, and we decided early on that it had to be directly controlled by the workers.
Ellen says a group of about 85 workers and supporters of the Portland Hotel Society are involved in Save PHS. Kim Hardy is one of them.
A lot of residents who follow the news, and most do, feel betrayed or uncertain and confused.
While there's been a lot of focus on the spending scandal by what are now former executives of the Portland Hotel Society, many like Fraser saying the focus needs to shift to the needs of the people living in the downtown east side.
People down here have been beaten since before they were born. And to install pride on people, that's number one.
Ellen says he hopes Save PHS will be up and running by the end of May. Neetu Garcha in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine. Vancouver Coastal Health Clinics are losing more healthcare services as they centralize them at the soon-to-open Raven Song Centre. Reporter Tina Lovegreen has more.
The Evergreen Health Clinic is one of 3 community health centres that will lose its primary and preventive care programs. NDP leader Adrian Dix says Vancouver Coastal Health's decision will cause thousands to lose their family doctors, and the decision will undermine healthcare across the city.
These centres work remarkably well in our community. They provide excellent multidisciplinary care. They support and ensure that people don't end up in acute care hospitals. They're the last thing that should be cut by the government.
The services from Evergreen, South Vancouver and Pacific Spirit will be combined into the Raven Song Centre. But health critic Judy Darcy says not everyone will be eligible for primary care services under the new criteria.
About 6,500 there, and for those 4 community health centres, 5% of the most at risk will get their care in the future if they can travel there, and it can be 20, 40, 45-minute ride. This 5% of most at-risk patients includes the frail elderly with multiple chronic conditions. It also includes what are referred to as dual diagnosis patients, people with severe mental illnesses, severely drug addicted. So the idea is that those 2 patient populations are somehow supposed to get care down at one central location in Raven Song, leaving the other 90% nobody knows where. And this is at a time when there are 100,000 patients in Vancouver without a family doctor.
For Evergreen patients like Sandra Scow, commuting to the new center will be challenging because of her arthritis and other health issues.
That's a half an hour to 45 minutes on the bus. And I have enough troubles on the bus because of the jerking and stopping and stuff. So eventually I probably would have to go on Handy Dart. And Handy Dart, like through people I know that are on Handy Dart, it's like if I get sick, I have to be like 3-4 days in advance to give them notice to get somewhere.
Vancouver Coastal Health says the new center, which will open later this year, will offer more services that treat the elderly and those with mental health and addiction issues. Tina Lovegreen in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
A preliminary budget report released this week by the Vancouver School Board predicts a shortfall of nearly $30 million for the 2015 to 2016 school year. This means layoff and budget cuts for school programs. Reporter Olsi Sorakana now joins us with the details on this report. Olsi, what are the proposed changes?
Well, Angelina, the budget proposal includes suggestions to cut at least 21 full-time educational positions in different areas. These include peer mentors, literacy consultants, and education psychologists. As well, the report proposes eliminating the band and strings program in the elementary schools, as well as continuing education program for adults. Now, the school will be closed for 3 additional days in order to save the board about $300,000. Now, there are some additions as well, mainly upgrades to the hardware and IT.
Olsi, when will these changes be implemented?
Well, the Vancouver School Trustees will be taking public feedback all throughout the month of April at public meetings. Now, the board is expected to approve a balanced budget on April 30th, and those people who are unable to attend those meetings are welcome to send an email at budget2014_2015@vsb.bc.ca. Back to you.
Thanks, Olsi. After the Government of Canada passed a new law allowing exploratory drilling in parks, there was a flurry of Facebook shares warning that British Columbians are losing control of their parks. My co-anchor, Angelina Theilmann, spoke with government and environmentalists to hear firsthand what this means to British Columbians.
Environmentalist Gwen Barley is not happy with recent changes to the BC Parks Act. She says they are putting BC parks in jeopardy.
Bill 4 means that you don't really have a park in BC that's safe from industrial development, and that's why this bill needs to be repealed.
But BC Environment Minister Mary Polak disagrees the bill poses any such risk.
There is no possibility of industrial activity taking place in parks. These amendments don't change that. They simply give us the authority that we didn't have legally before to allow the kind of research and commercial filming that has been going on in parks for quite some time.
But Barley insists the minister is not being transparent.
And in Bill 4, it very specifically says that industrial research would enable roads and transmission lines and pipelines.
Polak insists British Columbians worried about industry in parks are worrying for nothing.
Mining, drilling, transmission lines, pipelines, none of those things are allowed to take place in our BC parks. They weren't before, they aren't now, they won't be allowed in the future.
But Polak's message doesn't sit well with Barley.
The Wilderness Committee last week went to an open house held by Kinder Morgan, and it was about changing the boundaries of the Bridal Veil Falls Provincial Park outside of Chilliwack. The Minister of Environment, her briefing book identifies over 30 parks whose boundaries could be adjusted for industrial development.
Polak says she hopes Canadians concerned with changes to boundaries in parks will stay informed.
I would ask them also to be active when it comes to the consultation on boundary amendments, which will come, but is a separate discussion.
While views vary, Barley and her colleagues will continue to wage a war on Bill 4. Angelina Theilmann in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine. Coming up next on BCIT Magazine, more exotic birds are being put up for adoption and it's ruffling this homeowner's feathers.
And celebrating 20 years of democracy at this year's South African Film Festival.
A defining moment for me was when I finished my first internship and got lots of really great feedback from industry professionals.
I would have never imagined I'd be walking into the floors of TSN and thinking, I'm not a student anymore, I'm here to work.
I will be starting a job with an investigative news program in Toronto, and I'm really excited to see that grow into what will become, hopefully, my dream job.
BCIT Broadcast and Online Journalism, putting you to work.
An exotic bird sanctuary has seen a surge of birds up for adoption. As our reporter Nicolle Hodges found out, this is because many owners aren't researching the species enough before purchase, and it's ruffling some feathers.
They squawk, they talk, and their cages fill this entire house.
Every year we take in over 200 birds into our care, into our protection, and we find loving homes for them. People come here and visit with the birds, and sometimes they find one that really touches their soul, and we try to continue on with that relationship until it's into the adoption process. When you bring in a bird into this world, it's not like a dog or a cat where it may live 10, 15 years tops. These birds live to 100. You've got to focus on what you're going to do when you get older.
Here at Greyhaven Exotic Bird Sanctuary, the main message is to do a ton of research before committing to one of these lifelong companions, as some birds can live to be 100 years old. Volunteers here know firsthand just what kind of bond you can create with these special animals. Greyhaven relies on volunteers like Bree Stowart to help care for the abundance of birds. She hopes that one day the birds bring someone as much joy as they have brought her.
Good thing you're not a huge biter.
If I could have more, definitely I would bring more home, but at least this way I get to experience their different personalities. Some are feisty, some are just comical. I really care for animals, I care for wildlife, and just this sharing, when you hold a little bird and you can talk to the little bird, but there's just a connection. I'm going to give them a kind of a salad here. Nobody at Greyhaven is paid. We rely on donations for our survival. Cages, toys, medical things. Every penny that goes into these cans, every single one goes directly to the birds.
And some of those birds desperately need care.
So we're trying to get the wing and the tail feathers back in.
To educate yourself on bird adoption or to donate, visit greyhaven.bc.ca. Nicolle Hodges in Surrey for BCIT Magazine.
More cities are moving towards green thinking, and now Burnaby is developing its own sustainability plan. And it's looking to the community and BCIT students for input. My co-anchor Neetu Garcha reports on this story.
Rebecca Lee is one of many students who stop by to see what all these signs are about, which led her to fill out My Green Goals questionnaire.
It's a big project, and I realized that it's a lot of planning, takes a lot of effort, a lot of money. I was just wondering and interested in how they are planning to target it.
Lise Townsend with the City of Burnaby says the surveys are a part of developing Burnaby's environmental and sustainability strategy.
It's a plan for Burnaby's green future.
She says another part is breaking things down.
Build green buildings and energy. It's one of the 10 petals on the flower that we're looking at in the strategy. We have 10 different themes that focus on things including green space, water, food systems, the built environment, how we plan our neighborhoods, how we get around. So for each of those, we have a goal and some strategies.
Adam Wright is helping to spearhead the project and says getting feedback is key.
When we were kind of identifying different events around the city, we tried to make it as broad as possible. So including everyone from kind of senior centers to BCIT to high school students to and everyone in between.
While the city plans to get feedback through these surveys at various places across Burnaby, they say talking to students is especially important.
It's great to speak to the students here because they have so much like practical kind of hands-on skills that they're developing, and they have a lot to offer.
Many BCIT students like Rebecca didn't hesitate to raise their voice on the topic.
If everyone on this planet is not saving enough, then eventually we'll be running out of resources.
The idea is to build a community that's sustainable from the start, from ground up, rather than building a community that's not sustainable and then trying to fix it later.
The environment is ours and our children's, so if we don't keep it the way we find it right now, we might not have it in the future.
Townsend says City Council will likely finalize and approve the plans in April of 2015. In the meantime, Burnaby residents can expect to see a draft strategy come out for another public consultation sometime this summer. Neetu, Garcha in Burnaby for BCIT Magazine.
It's been 20 years since the arrival of democracy in South Africa. To celebrate, nearly 1,400 people attended this year's South African Film Festival in Vancouver. Our reporter Maria Rozo was there.
This is Arnold Davis's third year attending the South African Film Festival. 15 films were shown at the event this year. Davis's deep support for the festival stems from its ability to educate others about his homeland.
Waiting to be shared.
I think it's absolutely magnificent because I see so many non-South African born people attending. I think it's important that we educate non-South Africans about what happened, about the history of South Africa, where the country was, and where the country is today.
The festival this year, however, was a little bit more special.
So this month of April 2014 is a very special month. It's almost exactly 20 years since the coming of democracy to South Africa. Yes, go ahead. And we requested of City Council here in Vancouver that they proclaim April 2014 to be South Africa Culture Month. And they did. Here's the proclamation from the Mayor and Council of South Africa Cultural Celebration Month in Vancouver.
The deep love for our country, the deep love for the history and the geography of our company that binds us regardless of the fact that so many of us have emigrated to different countries.
For Davis, this year was a success, with people from all over the world coming together to celebrate as one. Maria Rozo in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
Our reporter Nicolle Hodges got a chance to speak with the star of the original 90210 series, Jason Priestley. Priestley's using his celebrity status to spread awareness about a new clean drinking water program and is encouraging Canadians to contribute.
You may recognize him as his role as Brandon Walsh on the hit show Beverly Hills 90210. But Jason Priestley's career over the past 25 years has had an impact behind the camera. As the ambassador for a clean drinking water program, I spoke with Jason about what Canadians can do to help.
There's almost 1 billion children and young families in the world today that don't have adequate access to safe, clean drinking water. All people have to do is go to Walmart or walmart.ca. Any Procter & Gamble product that they buy, Procter & Gamble will donate 1 day's worth of clean, safe drinking water to a person in a developing country.
On a personal note, Jason mentioned that as a father of 2, he wants to teach his kids how to give back. This has been your entertainment news of the day. I'm Nicolle Hodges. Back to you.
Coming up next on BCIT Magazine, a World Cup soccer player is advocating for women's equality on the field.
And we take a look at what's happening in sports from the Sports Desk.
The most rewarding thing for me has been the relationships I developed in the program, both with instructors and classmates.
My sense of confidence has never been higher. I mean, this program's offered great opportunities to be in real world, real industry situations, and being in those moments and knowing I can contribute, I can do this.
It's exciting to be in this industry and to meet lots of great people and to make amazing friends.
BCIT Broadcast and Online Journalism, realizing your potential.
Hello, I'm Zara Premke with your community calendar. Well, the sun seems to be popping out, so why don't we check out what events are coming up this summer? Are you fans of Tegan and Sarah? I know I am. They'll be coming a little bit closer. They'll be here on June 14th at the Deer Lake Park for the CBC Music Festival. Tickets are $59.50 for one, or why not buy a family pack for $200? Check out their website for more details. Waiting for your summer fix of fireworks? Well, check out the Honda Celebration of Light on July 2nd, July 30th, and August 2nd at English Bay. Want more information? Check it out on hondacelebrationoflight.org. And for all you theater lovers, Shakespeare's Bard on the Beach will be taking place June 11th to September 20th. Some of the plays I'm quite excited for are The Tempest and A Midsummer Night's Dream. For more information on these shows and ticket prices, check out bardonthebeach.org. I'm Zara Premke, and that's been your summer edition of the Community Calendar.
It's been a busy week in the Vancouver sports market. For the first time in 6 years, the Canucks aren't making the playoffs.
The Whitecaps are facing adversity of their own after suffering a rare home loss. For more on this, we go to Cam Barra for your BCIT Sports.
Thanks, Angelina. Well, it's been a busy week for the Vancouver Canucks. In a matter of 3 days, they were knocked out of playoff contention, fired their GM and president of 6 years, and hired a new president who was a former player. That's right, Mike Gillis is out. Trevor Linden is in as the new president of hockey operations for the Vancouver Canucks. The man known as Captain Canuck says he's excited for this opportunity to get back in the game.
Today is a real honor. I came to Vancouver 26 years ago, and I've never left. I love this city. It is my home, and the Canucks have always been a big part of my family. I always believed that I'd once again work in this great game. I believe I'm ready for this challenge. I'm young, I'm passionate about this team, and I want to win, just like the Canuck fans do. This organization has been such a big part of my life that it was just the right thing.
For Mike Gillis, despite bringing the Canucks to within a game of the Stanley Cup just 3 years ago, fans and ownership both wanted to change. The fans voiced their opinion on Monday, chanting "Fire Gillis" during a 3-0 loss to the Anaheim Ducks. Francesco Aquilini says this was a needed change.
I want to thank Mike, for his years of service. It was time for a change. I mean, I'm disappointed. I think all the fans were disappointed, and I'm a big fan. And we need a new direction in the organization, a new voice, and Trevor, when he accepted this position, was the perfect fit.
Vancouver still has yet to announce a new GM to take over for Gillis. Some names that have been thrown around are Brendan Shanahan, Bob Nicholson, and even Marcus Naslund. One thing for sure, it's now Trevor Linden's decision who gets to manage this team. With the NHL season wrapping up in the next week, it's time to look forward to the postseason. And while the Canucks won't be involved in the discussion this year, it's a season filled with great parity and even better matchups. I'm joined now by Vishal Prasad and Ronel Desai to get their takes on the top dogs and the underdogs. Now, Ronel, we'll start with you. Over in the East, who's a contender and who's that team that could really come in and surprise some people?
Well, Cam, the best team out of the East is definitely the Boston Bruins. Since the NHL returned from the Olympics, they ran through the month of March with a 15-1-1 record and have taken full control of the President's Trophy race, sitting well ahead with 114 points. The Bruins have scored 102 goals in the third period, which is tops in the league, and have only allowed 53. Bottom line, the Bruins are in control of the action more often than not, which is obviously a good thing heading into the playoffs. Simply put, they have that edge. And then when it comes to the underdogs, well, how about Mike Babcock and the job that he's done with the Detroit Red Wings? Without the likes of Alfredson, Zetterberg, Datsyuk, Cleary, Helm, I mean, the list goes on. They've been suffered from the injury bug, or they have suffered from the injury bug, and they continue to be a legitimate threat to contend in the Eastern Conference. Guys like Nyquist, who leads the team with 28 goals, and Tatar, who isn't the biggest player, who plays with such a high level of tenacity, is so creative offensively and responsible defensively as well. And the Detroit Red Wings, well, that's why they're my pick as the underdog in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, the Eastern Conference looks like it has a lot more parity this year compared to others. But over in the West, it's still a battle. And Vishal, who's the top team there?
I mean, the top team I'm picking, it's an easy choice. I'm going with St. Louis. I mean, they have tons of depth, players like Oshie and Backus, and they have a veteran goalie in net in Ryan Miller. Now, that's what you need going in the postseason, a goalie that knows how to play, a goalie that's been in tough situations, and Ryan Miller is going to provide that for them. Now, the only problem I have with St. Louis is they aren't experienced enough in the postseason, which leads me to my underdog pick, the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, they've been to the playoffs. They won the Stanley Cup 2 times in recent years, and if they can get Jonathan Toews back in the lineup, he's a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, he's a 2-time gold medalist, he's a Conn Smythe winner, and if he can get back in the lineup healthy, they're going to be a force to reckon with.
And before I let you guys go here, I want your final matchup and your Stanley Cup winner. Ronel?
Well, a rematch of 2013. Bruins versus Chicago, but this time Bruins take it. They're the Stanley Cup champs this year.
Vishal?
I got to agree with Ronel, except I feel St. Louis and Boston, but Boston definitively wins it, takes it in 5.
I'm going to have to disagree with you guys and go off the board with a Colorado-Tampa Bay final with a Lightning taking with it. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks. Thank you.
Sticking on the ice, we'll move to a local team making a push for the Cup. the BCHL's Coquitlam Express are preparing to take on the Vernon Vipers in the Fred Page Cup Finals. The Express came 9th in the regular season and made the finals by taking down number 1 seed Langley and 2nd place Victoria. A big part of Coquitlam's success has been the play of goalie Gordy DeFell and captain Ryan Rosenthal, who won Player of the Week after pushing his team to the finals.
I think what's really been the difference is the rest of the team, honestly. Everyone's picked it up a level. Our defense, like I said, has been awesome. Clearing pucks out, getting it up to the forwards, and that's what's given me the chance to score.
All year he's been great, especially now during the playoffs when we need him most. He's been doing unbelievable. He's been our best player by far.
Like Ryan said, the team, I mean, that helps me playing goalie. I'm clearing the rebounds and getting pucks high off the glass and just getting the puck out of the zone. But for me personally, just kind of stepping it up. Playoffs is the best time of the year, so I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Looking forward, the Express lost to the Vipers early in a round robin matchup, but the players are confident they can learn from that loss and come out on top as the underdogs once again. Game 1 goes Friday night in Vernon with the home opener in Coquitlam on Monday. Last weekend, the Vancouver Whitecaps had their unbeaten streak come to an end as they lost 2-1 to the Colorado Rapids. It was also a rare home loss from the Caps, but they say they're ready to move forward from a game they did like for the most part.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think that's a good word to use. Is stunned. It kind of hit us at the wrong time too. When we think that we have the game by the scruff of the neck and we're controlling things, it's kind of a 1-2 punch there, and you find yourself on the back foot. So again, it is what it is. You have to say that the guys fought for 90 minutes tonight, even when we went down a man. Had enough chances to win. Unfortunately, that didn't happen either.
It was difficult because we went down, and then obviously the boys hit a thunderbolt before we knew. We haven't got set, and it's 1-1, and it's 2-1 before we know. So it's a kick in the teeth to us and the boys in there. And I've said I'm proud of them. I really am. You know, we didn't go under. We kept fighting till the end. We had 1 or 2 half chances.
Vancouver will be in tough this Saturday on the road against the high-flying LA Galaxy. And that does it for your BCIT Sports this week. Back to you, Neetu.
That was our BCIT sportsman, Cam Barra. While Brazil gears up for this summer's World Cup, one Canadian soccer great is preparing for the 2015 FIFA Women's World Cup right here in Vancouver. And she hopes her organization can capitalize on its spotlight. My co-anchor, Angelina Theilmann, has the story.
A lot about women's soccer frustrates Canadian Women's Soccer Hall of Famer Carrie Serwetnyk.
I just can't believe how unbalanced things are in this country for soccer. And it's such an illusion that we think that the girls have it made. And
she's not happy next year's FIFA Women's World Cup final at BC Place Stadium will be played on artificial turf instead of real grass, like at men's World Cups. She also laments what she describes as a lack of buzz for next year's tournament. But that's why Serwetnyk started her organization called Equal Play FC. It's so she can promote women's equality in sport.
Right now, there's this glass ceiling, if you want to call it, or grass ceiling, that people feel they can't go further.
She's referring to women when they reach a certain level of soccer. And girls soccer coach Tim Ferriss says he has seen the grass ceiling.
But it's big in the amateur ranks, you know, through the high schools, to the colleges, and then it's almost like that's it. Like it's almost like there's a wall when the college is kind of done.
Ferriss suggests something else he'd like to see change is the predominance of male coaches in women's soccer. This is consistent with what Serwetnyk is also advocating for.
I've walked the fields. I've seen that there's barely any women leaders out here.
So with little more than a year to go before Women's World Cup soccer kicks off right here in Vancouver, it still remains to be seen whether the grass versus turf war will be resolved, whether the momentum for the tournament will really pick up, and whether Serwetnyk's dream for a legacy for women's sport here in Vancouver will be achieved. Angelina Theilmann in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
If you have any questions or comments regarding this program, please visit us online at bcit-broadcast.com or bcitbroadcastnews.ca and follow us on Twitter at BCIT News. I'm Neetu Garcha.
And I'm Angelina Theilmann. And that's today's BCIT Magazine. Thanks for watching our last show of the year. We leave you now at the rink with the Coquitlam Express hockey team.